I upgraded my P322, as you can see, with the Armory Craft dual adjustable trigger. Just finished installing it. It's a pretty straightforward process. It just takes a little bit of back and forth so you can get the trigger, the way that you want it. And that's the brake. Let me just rack it against the wall here. And this is the reset there. And I'm gonna let go of the trigger. You see it didn't move anymore. I have it pretty much right at the point where it breaks, because that's one of the things I didn't like about this trigger. You really have to bring it out for it to reset. So I have it pretty much at the point where right where it breaks consistently. And when you pull it back, it does have a little bit of take up. It's not a crisp wall, but it is pretty, satisfactory for what it is. See, it keeps giving a little bit more creep, and then it'll finally break. Not the worst thing. It is just a 22, but so far this feels like the best 22 trigger that I own, with the exception of the Black Mamba. But you're talking about a gun that's $1,400 versus one that's $4, so 3 times the cost. I haven't taken it to the range yet. Again, I just finished installing it, but I am liking it, the way it feels. And I like that the reset's pretty short. Again, that was probably my biggest complaint. Also, the over travel on the other trigger, it felt like if it broke here, and then you'd still have to like a good ways of over travel, and it would just throw my aim off for a quick follow-up shots. And it's important when you're shooting small critters, you need quick follow-up shots, especially since they're running away if you did miss the first time around, or if you just want to finish it off. Maybe you didn't get the shot that you wanted, so it's still kicking. You want to make sure that you take it out as quickly as possible. But for me, it's typically if I missed, say I'm about to pull the trigger, and right as I squeeze the trigger, whatever I'm shooting at moves, whether it's a squirrel or a bird or something, and then it moves, so I missed, and right before that animal can react, I'm able to get a quick second shot to take care of it. Even when I'm just basic shooting at the range, I like to have that nice consistent feel to all my triggers. I just need to put the suppressor back on there. And this is the original trigger shoe. It is the flat one. I never had the curved one. I have it in the box, but I never installed it. And it does make a difference just on the feel of the trigger. This is plastic, and if you've ever seen this taken apart, it's just 2 little metal kind of hooks that go down, but you can feel the difference. On the plastic, it's got give, so it does feel like it's bending almost, even though this is pretty sturdy, but that's the way it feels with the hooks of the trigger. It does feel like it's flexing, and this is aluminum, so definitely no flex on that. It's pretty. I love how it just doesn't go all the way to the front. I hate that about the SIG Striker Fire triggers. I didn't like that about my P320 either. It's just their design's not the best. It's made for something else. For what it was designed for, it's great. It's modular. It's all these wonderful things. But when it comes to a nice crisp trigger, it's just not something that they've gotten down. You have to do so many adjustments or just reset the whole thing by all different springs. And it's still not, to me, in my opinion, the best trigger. This, however, is several times better than the original trigger. Several times better. The feel of it just being sturdy, it does lock in with these screws. If you do adjustments on this screw, if you end up getting this trigger, it runs somewhere about $65. And one thing I will note is, if you feel you have it adjusted properly for both take up and over travel, make sure that you put at least one of these screws, usually the top one. Install the top one, because it does make a difference. As it tightens around the actual trigger hooks, it will move it just a little bit. So if you had it adjusted right at the break where it resets and right where it breaks, then you install the trigger, it'll push on the hooks, and all of a sudden you're too much in one direction, so you won't get it to reset, or you'll pull the trigger all the way back and it won't break. So when you install these, it does tighten up. It does kind of move those hooks just a little bit, but it might be that little bit where it causes it to, again, either not reset or not break when you squeeze the trigger. Then you have to just take it off again and readjust it. That happened to me a couple of times. On one of them, it was fine. It broke right where I wanted it to. I was adjusting it for pretty much to stop right where the reset of the trigger was. And when I put it all in, tightened up on the screws, all of a sudden it wouldn't activate the sear. So I pulled the trigger all the way back, nothing would happen. I even squeezed a little harder, just thinking maybe I had it a little bit too tight, but it wasn't that. It was just those two screws right here. Once you tighten them up, it does kind of move it a little bit internally, and it threw it off. So I had to take them off, do it again. I got it right where I wanted it, and can't wait to take this out to shoot it. So if you do that, again, don't think you did something wrong in the installation. It's just that tightening these up does move the, I guess what would be the trigger shoe, those two hooks that are on the actual trigger, even though technically this is a trigger shoe. But it looks like it's gonna be fun. I got the red one just because the black kind of seemed plain. If they were the same price, why not just go with the red one? So it's gonna be 20 rounds, hopefully of consistent follow-up shots. We'll see how that goes.